I bought all the accessories on AliExpress. As you can see, everything was super cheap, but I recommend ordering way in advance because it took me a month to get everything in the mail. So I'm going to show you how I made the belt. I'm basically just going to voice over everything. When I was recording, I thought it was going to be in landscape, but unfortunately it turned out to be portrait. So I got the front end of the chain loop and I just attached it to the front belt loop, like so. And then for the back, I had to make a hole in the leather, and you'll see how I did that here. I just used a big giant safety pin to pierce the hole. And then since the hole is really tiny, I used a wire to make a loop, as you will see in a bit. So I made that loop so I can attach the back end of the chain onto the belt. Originally, I was going to just attach that big giant ring into a tiny hole, but obviously the big giant ring is way too thick to fit. So that's why I used the wire. And then I just closed it up using pliers. And then there you go. So I made a slit in the shirt so I was able to put on the shirt and take it off easily, because when you added the chain trim to it, it's not going to be very stretchy. So that's why I made the slit. But I just covered it up with safety pins so you can't even tell. And yeah, I'm in love with this trim. I hand sewed it on because using the sewing machine, it just wouldn't work. I tried. The trim was too bulky and the chains would move everywhere. So it was easier just to hand sew it. So I hand sewed it on both sides, made 2 lines like I pointed out. Sorry I didn't record this. I just don't really record myself sewing. I find it hard. I got this trim at Walmart. I was just in the sewing aisle and I saw this trim and I was like, this is literally perfect. Do not underestimate the Walmart crafts aisle. They have some good stuff. And I also put the trim on the gloves as well. But at first, I put bias tape onto the glove and then I hand sewed the trim on. It was just to make it more secure and to hold it more in place. For the paint splatter effect, I used the Tulip Color Shot Instant Fabric Color. It's really easy to use. You spray it on. And if you use fabric paint, it just takes up way too much time and it dries really hard. But with this, it dries soft, so you can't even tell there's paint on it. Now I just want to show you guys my first attempt at making this shirt. Cosplay is all about trial and error. And then, so what I did for the splatter effect on this one, I combined fabric paint and water to make it more liquidy, and I just splattered it all over the shirt. When it was wet, you can see the splatters, but when it dried, literally nothing showed up at all. So it was a huge waste of time, and it was pointless. So this is the shirt dried. As you can see, the paint splatter is practically invisible. And then so I tried painting with fabric paint to make the splatter effect, but it just did not look good. So I totally just scrapped the whole shirt and I just started on a new one. Now to prevent fraying of all the cuts I made on the shirt, I just sealed them off with that zigzag stitch on the sewing machine. And I also did that on the inner cuts as well, and you'll see. And then I also added chain trim to the armholes, first by putting bias tape, then putting on the trim, just to make it more secure. Okay, now I'm going to show how I made the necklace. So when I got the choker, I had to replace the O-ring with the padlock, but that whole process was so difficult because the O-ring was so thick, I couldn't cut it in half, and I literally just had to pull it apart just like that. It took about 20 minutes. And then by using wire cutters, I just cut off the chains of the padlock necklace, and then I'm going to attach it to the actual choker. So I used these eyelets, I think that's what they're called, to attach it because I didn't want to cut the padlock in half. So for the armbands, I sewed together 2 pieces of fabric, and I sewed out this elongated triangle onto the fabric. And then when I sewed, I allowed 1 inch of free space, so when I can turn it inside out. And so what you're going to do, you're basically going to cut along the lines of the triangle. And so once you cut all the extra fabric off and then you turn it inside out, you finally made the armband. And I turn it inside out just so you can get that clean edge, as you can see right there. And these are the boots I got for the cosplay. I thrifted them. Alright guys, so that's how I made my Dancing Makoto cosplay. And in total, everything was $65.16. I did already have the wig, and I already did have the skirt because I had the school uniform. Cosplay. If you do want to cosplay Dancing Makoto and you don't want to pay a bunch of money, You can find the wig and just the skirt itself, and I used AliExpress. Everything I bought for this cosplay was pretty much on AliExpress, except from the tulip color shot I got from Walmart, and that was only $10. And for the boots, they were $12, but I thrifted them. And the shirt, I got like a Forever 21 bodysuit, just a basic one, $4, that was thrifted as well. And for the trim around the gloves and my arms, that was, I bought 3 of them, and it had 1 yard for each roll, and so they were like $5 each. So I paid $15 for just for the trim, but it was worth it because it looks really good. For AliExpress, everything on AliExpress only cost me $24.16, and that's the main pieces, because I had a lot of like accessories. The safety pins was a big one. I think the most difficult part of this cosplay for me was just doing the paint splatter, because I messed up once and I like wasted a shirt, but then I tried a whole different new method as I showed in the video, and it just worked perfectly. And I did thrift some items, so you're gonna have to get lucky with that, but if you just look to your local stores, you're bound to find something if you really look. So that's the end of my video. Thanks for watching, and just click the link in the description for my other social medias.
That'll be later, Brian. Follow me.